the madhouse.
All right, Big Ten tournament is in the past, and now it's time to focus on the big, beautiful, bodacious bracket. So what we're going to do is fill out a bracket together. Now, if your name's Joe and you're in your car right now listening and you're like, but guys, you're the Shot of Michigan Sports Podcast. Hey, Joe, shove it, okay? We're going to talk about national topics that everyone's talking about. That way, you can go to the water cooler and impress Roxanne with your perfect bracket because you listened to this and you filled out exactly as we say to, and you're right, and you win $1 million, and you can come back and thank us for not just sticking to Michigan sports, okay? So now that that's out of the way, we're going to have fun here, and we're going to fill out a big, beautiful bracket. This will be perfect.
And bodacious.
So the rules about this is, obviously there's 3 of us. Can you count? Yes, 1, 2, 3. If 2 people decide that a team should move on, that team will move on. The majority rules. This is a democracy. Now, where it gets interesting is each of us gets one overrule, we'll call it, where you might be the minority, but you're allowed to use one in this whole bracket where you're like, nope, I am moving that team along. And that team is going to be the team that is selected despite what you 2 idiots think. So, those are the rules as we go in. Like I said, get out your pen. If you've made a bracket already, you should delete it right now. We'll give you a second.
Thank you.
Okay, you're back. Yeah, delete that bracket, Joe, and get your pen and paper and just fill in as you listen to our sweet, sweet voices. All right. The first 4, I mean, these games don't really count. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's disrespectful to some people.
Hold your mouth.
I mean, these games, they do count, but I guess it's weird to, fill out the bracket without them being played yet, but we're going to because we film on Monday, so what are you going to do? I believe the first game of the tournament is Texas Southern versus Mount St. Mary's.
What a matchup.
I mean, if that doesn't get the blood flowing, I don't know what does.
That doesn't tickle your pickle.
I have Texas Southern circled.
Sure, I'll go Texas Southern as well.
All right, Evan, we only need to hear you talk. Texas Southern has moved on unless you want to overrule.
You want to use your overall
okay.
on the 16
right.
playing game.
Next game is Drake, Wichita State. Drake.
Shockers.
Ooh.
Evan, Drake had lost their last 4 games because their best player was out, and now he's back for the tournament, and he's by far their best player. Just not trying to swing you or anything,
But shockers.
I am going to go... I'll go Drake.
Okay, Drake is in. Then App State and Norfolk State.
Spartans.
I have Norfolk State.
Spartans.
Okay. Let's move on to the last game of the first 4 night on Thursday. Michigan State versus UCLA. 2 basketball schools dying to be in the blue blood category. The one that wins this game will be the closest to the next blue blood in my mind. So there is a lot on the line in this matchup.
You're ridiculous.
And fighting for the chance to get in the NCAA tournament. There's a lot on the line in this basketball game.
Spartans.
Well, before we get to your predictions, Alex, let's take a step back at how Michigan State got here. And the narrative on the internet, as the kids call it, is that Michigan State was robbed of getting a non-first 4 bid. A lot of people think they should not be in this game. They are better than other teams in this field, not to name names, but Syracuse. So Evan is pretty passionate about this from what I understand. Evan, why don't you walk us through what you're thinking about Michigan State's draw in the Big Dance?
Hey, first, we were FaceTiming. I was FaceTiming Alex and a couple of our friends. And the way that they did the selection thing is predictable, whatever. But when Wichita State and Drake were one of the first couple of teams, and those were 2 like in the bubble consideration teams. Didn't get too nervous. Was like, you know what, fine. Then they went over to the South region, and Utah State's in as an 11 seed. I'm like, they shouldn't be in. Okay, bubble team's now in. Getting a little bit nervous. Then instead of like going back to like the left side of the bracket, they just went straight down to the Midwest. And then some like Oregon State got in, but they were an automatic qualifier. And then they showed Syracuse as an 11 seed. And they were a bubble team, projected, I don't think, either to be just in or just out. Nervous. And then Rutgers was in, but Rutgers was in as a 10 seed. So like the Big Ten seeding was kind of off in some areas. And then they flipped over to the East region where Michigan and Michigan State are in. But it took, so we're the fifth matchup introduced. And debatably, like the last spot Michigan State could have been in was either 11 or 10, but Maryland hadn't been called yet. So it was either we get into this spot or we don't get in. And they showed us as a playing game.
Dun, dun, dun.
Kind of favor draw. I don't mind it. But the first four, and this whole thing about how we don't match up, our resume doesn't match up. And then they had, what was his name? The chairman, Mitch Barnhart, is all over the TVs, getting interviewed by CBS, ESPN, you name it, was getting interviewed. And here are some of his quotes, and I found it on Chris Solari's Twitter. Barnhart on Utah State getting a bye and not a playing game. Quote, Utah State had the best net among teams under consideration, puts the wins over San Diego State as high quality.
Joke.
Michigan State beat 3 top 5 teams. Okay. Utah State only had 2 quad 1 wins. He later was asked whether the net was valid and how there's more than one metric and every committee member looks to it to a different quote unquote prism. And then they asked if the net was out of whack this year, and he said no. He stands by the net, and that Colgate was the only outlier in the metric this year.
Gross.
And then we go to, there was another quote I wanted to read. Had to deal with Syracuse only had, I think, 2 quad 1 wins. And he was cited saying Syracuse had 4 wins over tournament teams, like teams in the tournament. Only 4. That's not counting ranked wins. That's not counting 3 top 5 wins. That's not counting, neither of us won a tournament game. So, like, the resumes don't add up. They don't. And then he was coming out and saying how the metric of how Michigan State fell there was just like how he quote unquote said scrub like 3 times in like 2 sentences span getting interviewed on CBS. And then he's directly saying how it's going to be a fantastic matchup to lead us off of the tournament of seeing 2 historic programs, Michigan State and UCLA. There's only one reason they put us in it. It was for the money. And they put Michigan State and UCLA 2 programs. So now the matchup is Michigan State, UCLA, 9:57. Pushed it back that late. We're not the 8 o'clock game. So UCLA fans, LA ratings will get thrown in. Second, we're playing in Purdue, not Assembly Hall. Why Purdue? Wooden went to Purdue. And so they're going to have the UCLA John Wooden tie-in to Mackey Arena. Next, Michigan State hasn't won in Mackey since, I think, 2017 or 2014. Kind of a scary situation. Alex, your thoughts on the selection show?
The NCAA seems to screw Michigan State a little bit, not terribly, on every selection Sunday, it seems. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but a 29-4 team was a 3 seed Michigan State once. So it's happened before. The Middle Tennessee year, it happened again. You can look it up if you want to. I'm just happy Michigan State's in the tournament ultimately, so I'm not going to complain too much. If you're actually deserving of not a playing game, you'll just win your playing game, and then you'll, move on from there. With that being said, I think Michigan State beats UCLA in their first game.
Dude, we're not there yet.
Michigan State will beat the Bruins, if I had to predict, on Thursday at 9:57 p.m. and 6:57 Pacific time.
Okay, now we're to the last game of the first 4. It's Michigan State versus UCLA. 9:57 p.m. on TBS.
And 6:57 Pacific time for the LA natives.
TBS, very funny. I honestly think there's like 10 active UCLA fans in existence. I really do.
There
I
might
think
be
like
12.
In a couple of years from now there'll be more after they turn that program around, but I don't think that when you live in California you really care that much about UCLA basketball unless it's like Kevin Love and Russell Westbrook. and then when John Wooden was there, just winning chips. So,
Chips.
anyways, I would say from looking at this game, because we can spend a little bit more time here because it is a shot of Michigan sports, so it's Michigan State. The stats that I care about in games, Michigan State is pretty much worse than UCLA in almost all of them. Now, and the big outlier for Michigan State that everyone kind of knows who's watching them going into the tournament is of the teams in the field, they are the second worst just overall shooting team in the field, which doesn't make you sleep well at night. That's why they've been such a roller coaster. But I will say, I guess this is just one of those games where I would lean Michigan State because I value the Big Ten Conference, and I'm just assuming that they're a tougher basketball team than UCLA. In this situation, UCLA also has to catch a semi-cross-country flight. Not that that super matters, but I'm going to go Michigan State against everything I believe in analytically in basketball and just ride that the Big Ten's a better conference in this specific matchup. Plus, selfishly, if I'm going to Michigan State on Saturday to drink for St. Patrick's Day, I would like there to be a buzz on that campus for another 9 p.m. game. So let's just put good energy out there that they win this game.
I would not be surprised if Michigan State lost. With that being said, I expect Michigan State to win.
Evan, what are your thoughts? I mean, we have the 2 vote, but let's hear you talk because it is a preview kind of game.
This is the third straight year Michigan State will play UCLA, third straight basketball season. Played them in the Las Vegas Invitational, beat them by 20, and then played them in Maui Invitational and beat them by 13. Mick Cronin was quoted after the Maui Invitational saying, one way or the other, we will become that, and saying he wants his UCLA team to resemble a Tom Izzo team. I respect Mick Cronin. He was at Cincinnati for a long time. His teams were always tough. They were under the radar kind of team because they were at Cincinnati. UCLA isn't back yet, but this game is going to be ugly probably to watch. I don't find either team probably to have success offensively unless one person shoots really well. It's going to take one person to get them over the top. I believe Michigan State will win, but I'm expecting a low-scoring game. And both teams, I think, match up well with each other, height-wise, skill-wise at point guard. You have the whole we recruited Campbell, their starting point guard, try to get him to Michigan State. So there's like similarities there. I hate that it's at 10 o'clock, but I am faithful in Tom Izzo in March, and Michigan State will move on.
To punch their ticket to the big dance.
Wow, Grant, that's assaulting.
Classic.
Assault! Okay,
Assault.
now that our first 4 is settled, let's move to the real brackets. We'll start in the top of the bracket, if you're looking at yours, the West region, they call it, even though it's all in Indianapolis. So we have Gonzaga versus Norfolk State.
Zags.
Just nod your heads. Yep, moved on. Now we have a 8-9, Oklahoma versus Missouri.
Sooners.
I have Sooners as well.
I do too. Quickly, they are limping in this tournament. They've lost 4 in a row. They're not playing good basketball at all. But there was something about I've watched them play once this year, and I don't know. Big 12 conference, move them on. Now 5-12. There's always a couple 12 upsets. We know that. Creighton, UCSB.
I don't want to go first. I really don't want to go first on this pick. Can I pass?
Yes, I will take the baton. I appreciate your honesty, and so does our audience. I will take Santa Barbara in this matchup. Why? Santa Barbara.
UC
Santa Barbara, they're a great shooting team. They shoot a lot of free throws, more than average. Creighton is embroiled in a kind of scandal that kind of is distracted from just on-court performance, in my opinion. And they don't shoot any free throws. And I think when you have a Creighton team who relies on great shooting, you're going up another great shooting team. That does not help Creighton in that case because it kind of cancels out their strength. And I also watched a little bit of tape since I was going to make this pick on UC Santa Barbara, and they look very athletic and quick and guys that can take you off the dribble ISO and make shots. So I am on the Gauchos, I believe. And also on that point, Gauchos is just a classic nickname that is going to make a noise in the tournament. The UC Irvine Anteaters. You think about the LaSalle Explorers. Those weird names, those weird schools. The Gauchos. Is it the Gauchos?
Yes.
Okay, thank goodness.
Creighton has been struggling, played pretty poorly against Georgetown, which we'll get to it, but I don't think Georgetown's that great. I will go with the classic 12-5 upset Gauchos.
Evan, you didn't have to
Good.
make a pick.
I don't have to make a pick, and I didn't want to make a pick for this game. I am just throwing caution into the wind. I'm not saying Creighton's going to win. I'm not throwing my pick out there. But I always have this gut reaction, like where most of America is probably picking what this matchup or one of these 12-5 matchups to like for the upset. And I could just see Creighton come out with like confidence saying, all right, people are dogging us. We didn't play well. And if they do shoot lights out, and let's not forget, Creighton pummeled a Villanova team that was at full strength early in this year. They have potential. Don't get me wrong, but I respect your guys' pick on this one.
Thank you. Now we have the 4-13 in that region, Virginia, Ohio. So this would go back to me since Evan deferred. Unless, Evan, you want to go on this one?
Sure. I will go Virginia, but I think Virginia is the overall better team, better coach team. However, Virginia is in quarantine until Friday. So if you want a quiet, sneaky, I don't know where we're going to go with this one, you might want to be looking at Ohio. But I like Virginia in this game.
I wrote down Virginia because at the end of the day, I think they are too good of a shooting team to lose. But like Evan said, this was one where I really thought about pulling trig on the 13-4 upset and decided against it because it was – then I had in my brain the 12 versus 13, which has happened, but that is just a little crazy to start off your bracket. So I went Virginia. Obviously, if they can't play or whatever, then all this is void and delete it from your memory, but I will go Virginia.
For what it's worth, I went Bobcats.
So you had 12-13. Was there anything you found about Ohio that people should think about if they want to take your side?
I think more of my one, Ohio's a scrappy team. They've made the tournament a couple times. They've made some noise in the tournament before.
They beat Michigan once in the first round.
Yes, I'm
yeah,
sure.
get to what you want.
But my main reasoning was just like Evan said, Virginia is going to be sitting around until Friday, and then they're going to go play a game. And the teams that have been coming off COVID pauses this year have not fared very well. It might take them too long to find offense. And if Ohio jumps on them early, I think they can win.
Ohio is also a top 5 shooting team in the tournament. So,
Bobcats.
You liked it. Underdogs usually don't muck up games. They usually have to make a lot of ridiculous shots, and they have the capability to. The 6-11 in this case for us is USC versus Drake. USC.
USC has the best player on the floor, USC.
I agree. I think USC will win.
Kansas, Eastern Washington, 3 versus 14. Kansas also having COVID problems.
Jayhawks.
I'll pick Kansas as well.
Rock Chalk. Again, if they're bounced out, null and void. You didn't hear anything. 7-10. Love these matchups. Oregon, VCU. Shaka Smart does not coach at VCU, and he has hair now.
2019, 3 of the 4 7-10 matchups, 10 seeds won. There's a little, and I think 3 of the 4 or half of the 12 versus 5 matchups in 2019 won. That was from previous, if you're listening. I like Oregon in this game.
I agree with you. Initially, I will say, pause though, I went into this game thinking it would be Oregon slam dunk, but after looking at the stats that I leaned more VCU, but then I went back to just eye test bias Oregon.
I like the Ducks by a lot.
By a lot. Wow. Look at Evan's eyeballs. All right, the 2 versus 15 matchup, Iowa Hawkeyes, led by Evan's Coach of the Year, Fran McCaffrey, versus Grand Canyon, a place that I have visited once when I was a child. Not the school, the Rock Formation. No, it's me. Evan just went. I will take Iowa, and I will, because 2-15, but I will say, you hear me good and you hear me clear. If there is going to be a 2 versus 15 upset, it will be this game. So you take that for what it's worth. But I'm not Heath Ledger, the Joker in The Dark Knight. I don't want to watch the world burn. But if there's going to be one, it will be this basketball game. But Iowa.
I do not have the nuts to take a 15.
No,
Iowa.
I don't either. But the reason why is Grand Canyon, from what the numbers show, have not watched them play. They shoot at the similar clip as Iowa. So this could turn into a track meet where each team is exchanging buckets. Now, I don't know who's going to guard Luka Garza. Like I said, I don't know these teams well enough. So that's where you would think Iowa would pull it out. You guys
I
want
will
to go?
go Iowa as well because Garza has and also I don't know if you're getting to this, Grant, but Grand Canyon is coached by one of the Drew brothers, so a long line of basketball coaching in that tree. So they will be well prepared and well coached to go up against the Hawkeyes.
Oh, look at us, just kind of throwing a little caution, a little smoke onto Iowa here. Do you guys want to go across the bracket or down? How do you like to do it?
Let's go south.
So the South region,
Mhm.
not South as in down. That was kind of
South
confusing.
region. South region.
It was.
Okay, yeah. See, Evan's confused too. We're just thinking here. All right, Baylor versus Hartford, the 116. Everyone nod that Baylor moves on. North Carolina, Wisconsin.
If you win in March on senior guards that can score, Badgers.
You win in March when your team can score, and Wisconsin struggles to do that. I will go North Carolina.
North Carolina. They grab offensive rebounds 41% of the time. And I'm just picturing Wisconsin's bigs just having a nightmare trying to box out. And I think UNC is their best offense is missing shots and getting putbacks. And like you said, Wisconsin does have a great senior guard. But I think overall, North Carolina is way too deep up front and too athletic for Wisconsin that they move on. Now, another interesting 5-12 matchup we find ourselves here. Villanova and Winthrop.
I will be going against the American favorites. I am going to go with Jay Wright and his pinstripe suit. I'm going Villanova.
I'm going Winthrop. Winthrop is great at rebounding, and they shoot at a similar clip as Villanova, and they've lost once this entire year. And I think, obviously, Villanova losing Gillespie has made them a different team.
Villanova's depleted. Winthrop is surging. Give me Villanova.
Wow. What a reversal. All right. The 4 versus 13. Purdue versus North Texas. I'll start this one off. I penciled in Purdue to the next round. I will say, after looking at the stats, I really was considering North Texas. I don't want to influence anyone here. They had some interesting numbers to compare to, and Purdue has also been known to lose to the Arkansas Little Rocks of the world in the first round. So I would not be stunned if this was another 12 versus 13 matchup on a side of a bracket, but I will go with Purdue.
Big Ten all day, Boilermakers.
I'm going with Purdue.
Unanimous. Okay, Texas Tech and Utah State. An interesting 6 versus 11 matchup here. Alex, you are starting this one.
Chris Beard, Texas Tech rolls.
I will go with the Red Raiders as well. I trust Chris Beard.
Yeah. So this one I always look at with Texas Tech is they are known for their defense. They're not a great shooting team. So I would get nervous if they were playing a great shooting team, but Utah State is not a great shooting team. So therefore, there's no cancel of strength there. Texas Tech. We have 3 versus 14 in Arkansas Colgate is what is being billed as a track meet because both teams like to go fast. I watched a little bit of the Colgate conference final. Evan loves Colgate. He's definitely, just as much as he loves Fran McCaffrey. So we have a 3-14. Both teams are going to be looking to run pace-wise.
Arkansas all day, not even close.
Must bus.
Yep.
I think Arkansas is going to be too fast, too quick for Colgate. Colgate has what it takes shooting-wise to stay in a game like this, but I think Arkansas also can shoot, so cancels it out. Arkansas.
Colgate is not the 10th best team in the country, Arkansas.
Is that a shot at the net?
Yes.
Yes.
Florida, Virginia Tech, 7 versus 10 matchup. I guess Virginia Tech hasn't played a lot of basketball recently, so I start this one. I have Florida. I don't have any statistical backing for this one.
Me either. I'll go Hokies.
Whoa, Evan.
I am going Florida. Florida has won their last 7 round 64 matchups.
Well, that's a good stat.
Love that. Ohio State, Oral Roberts.
Buckeyes.
Ohio State. Everyone move along. No hesitation there with that one, like I said.
Now let's go out
Great.
east.
Let's go out east. Michigan versus Texas Southern.
Texas Wolverines.
Nod your heads. Okay, great matchup here. LSU, St. Bonaventure.
Me, I like LSU in this matchup. I think it would be one of the best 8-9 matchups or one of the best first round games. But I think LSU is too athletic.
I have the Bonnies. I think they play all juniors. LSU was flashy, but I think since the Bonnies are experienced, they are not going to get sped up in a tempo war. They are going to relax, and they're going to force Louisiana State University, LSU, to jack up threes from the logo, which I think LSU looks so good against Alabama because they were in a track meet because Alabama wants to play fast. I think if you slow them down with an experienced team and a fundamentally sound team, the St. Bonaventures will win this basketball game.
I would be a fraud if I didn't pick the Bonnies after Sunday when I was all over them. And then I watched LSU play with Alabama. Very torn here. Coin flip. I'll go Tigers.
LSU. Go Tigers. 5-12. Colorado versus Georgetown, who was in a bid stealer from winning a beaten down Big East tournament. I will take Colorado. I think the Cinderella run that Georgetown's been on ends quickly in this. They are not really that good at shooting. They're kind of like North Carolina where they get all their points on the glass. I think Colorado shoots too well. They have some big men. They're like a big team, and they have an NBA player in McKinley Wright who will get them through this first game.
Georgetown in their run in the Big East did not really beat anyone, that's playing out of their minds right now. I think they're frauds. The Colorado Buffs.
This was Evan's 12-5. I know it.
Yes, this is probably one of my matchups. Do I have a little hatred towards Colorado fans? Absolutely. Shout out Mel Tucker season. I think Georgetown could be riding off the Big East tournament. One more game. I do like Georgetown a little bit, but I think you both picked Colorado already, correct?
Yeah. Not spending his overrule yet.
Oh, I forgot we had those.
But Grant, you did convince me with your knowledge on Colorado or your quick little insight, so I'm feeling a little lackluster on my pick on Georgetown.
The 4 versus 13. Florida State versus UNC Greensboro.
Me?
Yes.
I would love to pick UNC Greensboro because they are a good basketball team, but the problem is Florida State's length. They just do not match up well with them. So I'm going Florida State.
I'm going Florida State as well. Like Alex said, their length. And I think Florida State could even be better if they wouldn't play so many guys. They play like 13 guys easily.
Yeah.
I think they could be better. They have a NBA player. He's like the sixth man in the ACC. What's his name? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it.
Scotty Barnes with the high socks.
High socks.
I like him a lot. I like the way he drives. So
yeah,
I'm going Florida State.
Florida State. And I will say, if you're thinking about this being upset, stop what you're doing. UNC Greensboro is one of the worst shooting teams in this tournament, and that is awful going against the length of Florida State. You're not going to get easy buckets unless Florida State's turning it over a lot, which they do, but not in a 4-13. So just get the 13 Greensboro out of your mind. Okay, BYU versus Michigan State. The 6 versus the 11. I feel there could be an overrule at play, but that would mean one of you would have to go against the Spartans. Who starts this one? Evan starts this one. Wow, a lot of pressure.
Love it. Okay, when we get past UCLA, we'll have, I think this could be San Diego State, USC, or Texas Tech. This is probably one of the easier 6-seeded teams. I don't like how efficient BYU is offensively. That could hurt us if we get into a track meet. They do have Matt Harms, but Michigan State has experience playing against him because he used to be at Purdue. So we know how to guard him. I'm confident, and I don't want to say this, my little biased fan base is kicking into me. And so I am going Michigan State beating BYU.
I will go BYU on the fact that I just think they're too balanced. They're a better shooting team than Michigan State, and they are a better defensive team than Michigan State. Again, the knock would be the conference they play in, so this could be one of those Big Ten is just better than your stats situation. But the reason I was willing to put Michigan State over UCLA is because they're not as balanced, but BYU does it on both ends, and they shoot the lights out. It's like a top shooting team in the tournament versus a basement team in the tournament. That gap's too big. I have to go BYU.
BYU did not play in a rough and tough conference all season long. Gonzaga, you could argue, is not a super tough, punch-you-in-the-mouth kind of team. I think Michigan State will muck it up. I think they will be the tougher team, and I think they'll really fluster BYU. And I think the Spartans pull it out.
All right, Michigan State.
Completely not biased.
Through. Texas and Abilene Christian. Texas.
Texas by 50.
This is my shocking upset that I think you guys can book will happen. Book it. Abilene Christian.
Why?
Sneaky, very, very good team. They play great defense. They can score the basketball. And Texas is inconsistent, and I do not trust them. Just watch. I'm not pushing it through, but I'm just telling you that game is going to be closer than you think.
Where I would stop you with that is they have the third worst strength of schedule in the whole tournament. So, like, that's going to be an absolute brutal wake-up call, I think, to play Texas.
I'm just saying.
And I don't think I'm going to take Abilene, so I don't need to, like, defend it. I'm just cautioning the listeners if you're thinking about getting crazy.
They played Texas Tech. They lost by 7. They're not a bad team. They played Arkansas. They lost by 13, but it was a free throw game at the end. Abilene Christian could make that a close game. I'm not pushing it through, though. But it could happen.
Gotcha. Evan, you said Texas by 50, right?
I just like how athletic and how fast Texas plays downhill. They have an NBA power forward center, whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're led by a senior point guard.
Yeah.
What's his name? That went off for 30 against Oklahoma State.
I can't
in
think
the
of
Big
his
12
last name.
championship.
James, maybe? Some James.
Whatever.
Their main guy right now, we'll touch on later in games, is Jericho Sims is having like a breakout center player performance for them. So if
That's who it was.
If he's going off, then they're a different team because he was not doing that earlier in the year from what I understand. So the 7-10 here is UConn and Maryland. One of my personal games, I'm very interested to see how it plays out. A lot of pundits on the internet are saying that UConn is a dark horse to make a run, but I don't know if I see it that way. Alex, you start us off here.
UConn is 0-4 against the top 25 this year. Maryland has proven they can win big games. They're feisty, they play defense, and they can shoot. So I go Terps. So no UConn magical run for me.
Interesting. Evan?
I'm going UConn on solely basis of my hatred towards Mark Turgeon.
Well,
petty, but I respect it. I'm going Maryland because I thought about this game. UConn does have some big guys down low that are going to be a tough close out or box out for Maryland's smaller lineup that they run. However, UConn relies on James Bouknight, their NBA lotto pick, but Maryland has Daryl Morcell, and he is a pest, and he is going to be put on him and just run him around the gym, and I think that neutralizes UConn. They'll probably run too much through Bouknight because he sat out a little, so they know how to play without him, but they're probably going to run everything through him, and I think Morcell is going to be all over him, and I think Maryland wins this game. Probably a tight one, but Maryland wins, I believe. Alabama,
Bama. Shout out Rick Pitino, though.
Roll Tide.
To the Midwest.
To the Midwest. Illinois
Illini.
Drexel, Illinois. Loyola Chicago, Georgia Tech.
This is one of the worst seeded matchups in the tournament. I think both of them are way too low. I think you could have moved Loyola Chicago up to like a 7-ish team, and Georgia Tech should have been higher than a 7. They just got off playing the ACC championship. And so I don't think the committee did both of these teams justice by playing this in a game, because I could see both of these teams making a long run if they didn't play each other. Saw a little bit of Loyola Chicago, and then the ACC championship was the first time I actually watched Georgia Tech, and their defense and what they run is baffling of what they do. They run like a hybrid 1-3-1, 2-3 zone, and where they have like one guy just running around, basically trying to pick steals. The ACC Defensive Player of the Year, and they also have the ACC Player of the Year on their team. I think Georgia Tech is too athletic for Loyola Chicago. I will pick Georgia Tech.
Yeah, this was one of the hardest ones to pick for me because it's the classic eye test. Again, I've only watched Georgia Tech play one game, and it was the ACC final against Florida State, and they looked awesome. They have a scrappy point guard and the ACC Player of the Year. I know the ACC had a down year, but still, he looked good. Now, the thing is, I thought that when I would go look at the stats, they'd be good at defense. Well, they're terrible at defense over the course of the year. They are like one of the worst teams in the field at defense. Loyola is towards the top, and they are both about equal good at offense. They both shoot the ball well offensively. That leads me to believe Loyola Chicago will win this game because, again, they have at least one guy that was on their Final Four team, the big guy Krutwig, and I think maybe he can help neutralize Georgia Tech's big ACC Player of the Year player. So I'm going to go Sister Jean for one round in this one.
Tough matchup. Should be a good game. I could see it being pretty low scoring. Both teams can play a little bit of defense. I'm going to go with Sister Jean here. You guys laid it out, so I'll just say that.
Bang. Tennessee, Oregon State. Tennessee.
I don't trust Oregon State. Tennessee.
Correct.
Yves Pons is going to have an absolute disgusting block in this game. You can book it, ship it, send it, as Evan likes to say. So just sit back and watch that. And the Beavers' run is going to end pretty fast here. Oklahoma State is the 4 versus Liberty at the 3.
If I'm Oklahoma State, I am nervous for this game. I haven't watched a lot of Oklahoma State, but I watched the final against Texas, and they are a sloppy, undisciplined team. However, they have Cade Cunningham, probably the best player in the country. It's hard to pick against him, so I'll go Oklahoma State.
I'm going Oklahoma State easily.
I am not going to use my overrule, but I'm very confident Liberty is going to win this basketball game. They play, think about Virginia, but a smaller conference. They play dirt slow. And when it comes to tempo, I usually think that experienced teams can get over that tempo hump and play what they would like to play. But Oklahoma State is a sloppy, undisciplined basketball team that has benefited from beating other, not dialed-in teams. And I think Liberty is a bunch of upperclassmen who are going to slow this game down, not turn the ball over. They are the second-best shooting team in the tournament. I think they're going to drill open shots on offense, and they are going to limit all of Oklahoma State's possession. And it's just going to be Cade Cunningham one-on-one with people. And that might be enough to win, and I look like an idiot, but I'm pretty sure Liberty will win this game and would not be surprised to do so. But I am also comfortable not using the overrule because at the end of the day, I do enjoy watching Oklahoma State play basketball, and I'd much rather have them win for the rest of the tournament than Liberty because Liberty's boring.
Yeah.
But like Al said, I think nervous for this game.
That'd be a close game.
San Diego State versus the Qs.
I'm picking San Diego State because Syracuse shouldn't be in over us.
That's right. I am going San Diego State because Syracuse should be nowhere near this tournament. And I know a San Diego State fan, and I want him to be happy after one game.
Aztecs.
Go Tex. West Virginia, Morehead State.
Look at that. It leads right into you.
In this game, I have Morehead State winning the basketball game. They shoot well. They don't turn it over a lot, which is what West Virginia wants you to do. Mm-hmm. And they are a strong rebounding team, which is also what West Virginia wants to do. And frankly, it's a theme I have is I don't trust teams that can't shoot a basketball well. And West Virginia is fifth worst in the tournament in shooting percentage. They kind of always have been that. They get their money in steals and on the glass. And I think since Morehead State can rebound as well as them, I think that's going to hurt West Virginia. And I guess this would be my bold 14/3 prediction if I had to do it. And I'm willing to put them in if it shakes out like that.
Morehead State lost to Ohio State by 33, Clemson by 15, and Richmond by 18. Mountaineers.
Fair. I feel like I just got stuffed in a locker.
Give me Bobby Huggins all day.
I do love Bobby Huggins.
Are you overruling?
No.
On West Virginia.
Clemson and Rutgers.
Big Ten. I have picked them all day long. Rutgers.
I like Rutgers as well. I've seen a couple of Clemson games, and they were horrendous to watch. They scored 35 points in one game this year. So I'm picking Rutgers.
This game, if this over-under set at 120, I would still hammer the under. It's going to be gross. You're going to want to hide your kids, hide your wives, cover their eyes. Do like that Bird Box movie where you blindfold yourself to watch this. It's going to be an insult to the game of basketball that James Naismith created. I know a Rutgers fan, just like I knew a San Diego State fan. I want him to be happy. Gers.
Houston.
Rutgers fans do call themselves Gers. Houston. Yeah, pencil them in. Unless Evan thinks Cleveland State has something up there. To the west! Slang it out.
I just want everyone to know, Abilene Christian has a great shot against Texas.
You made that point. Gonzaga, Oklahoma.
Zags. Not even close. Blowout.
Gonzaga.
UC Santa Barbara, Virginia.
I'm just going to say this. I am a Tony Bennett fan, and if he's already had one game to kind of get going for the tournament, I like Virginia in this game in the hard-fought defensive battle from them.
Santa Barbara. The Gonzaga's cakewalk to the Final Four continues.
I don't think Virginia will even be in this game. Gauchos.
There's your double-digit seed from the boys. Overrule?
No, absolutely not.
Not confident in Virginia. Okay, USC, Kansas. I have USC. They have a lotto pick and his brother as well, who's also good. And Kansas is in COVID purgatory. USC.
Mobley to the Sweet 16. USC.
Fight on.
Evan, overrule.
No overrule. I have no vote. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything about this game.
Oregon, Iowa.
Fran McCaffrey stinks at coaching. Give me the Ducks and Dana Altman.
I'm going to go with Iowa in this one still, no matter how much I hate Fran McCaffrey.
Yeah. Again, I think I may have lit on to what I'm going to pick here. Although I think both these teams should be upset in the first game. I think Iowa just is going to shoot too well in this, and Oregon doesn't shoot that well. Give me Iowa. What's that finger for?
I want to overrule.
You might want to overrule.
I want to overrule it bad.
Be a stupid overrule.
Do it.
But I'm going to save it for later because I know where we're going to disagree. So I will let the Hawkeyes move on.
Okay. The South.
To the South!
Baylor, North Carolina. Pretty awesome 1 versus 8 matchup if you ask me. I'd be excited. There's a lot of athletes on the floor, a lot of bodies banging down low.
I'm still going to go with Baylor because of Baylor's guards. They have 2 to 3 really good guards. But this is going to be a close, hard-fought game, like we touched on earlier with North Carolina and all their post players. Baylor has like 4 key scorers of their starters, and then they have one guy that's kind of out there and plays defense as like a scrappy guy. So that's an advantage in North Carolina, and then North Carolina's length and size is another advantage because Baylor's not as big as your traditional 5-man. I still like Baylor in it, but I think it could be an upset here.
Yeah. Could be close. This goes back to a formula that I hold near and dear to my heart. We have a great defense facing a terrible shooting offense. Give me the defense. Give me Baylor. They'll figure out a way to rebound. Alex.
Baylor by 11.
Now we have in this Villanova, Purdue, 5 versus 4. Grant thinks it could be a 12 versus 13, but in this world it's a 5 versus 4. Who wins this interesting matchup? I did not handicap or look at this game because, again, I didn't have this matchup. I feel gross putting Purdue versus Baylor. I feel disgusting doing it, but I'm more confident in Winthrop winning their matchup than North Texas beating Purdue. So for that, I will hedge my bet and go Purdue does win this game and plays Baylor.
Boilermakers, Big Ten. Moving on.
I have Villanova versus Purdue in this matchup, but I think missing Gillespie is going to finally catch up to them when they face more athletic guards, a Big Ten team. So I like Purdue in this game.
6 versus 3 in this region. Texas Tech versus Arkansas. This one is Alex.
I like the Red Raiders clamping Arkansas's wild, erratic play. Texas Tech.
I like Texas Tech as well in this game, but this is probably one of the most energetic sidelines matchups in between Musselman and Beard. And this is like 2 of the under the radar quality coaches that are going to be coaching somewhere bigger than where they're at currently. But I still like Texas Tech in this game.
Yeah, Texas Tech's defense is not what it was when they were in their glory run. It's not as good. They have the point guard Mac McClung and some other key pieces. Haven't really seen Arkansas play that much basketball this year, so I always feel weird knocking a team out, but I'm going to go Texas Tech, so that's unanimous anyways. So we're all on Texas Tech there for the 6-3. We have Evan picked Texas Tech, right? Yeah, I thought yeah. So Florida and Ohio State. This just takes me back to the days when they were in Final Four matchups, I feel like.
Title games.
Yeah, title games. These are good historic teams. Interesting to see them matched up here.
I'll go Ohio State. I think Washington will shoot them out of a early slump in this game. But I like Florida's coach in White. His last name's White. But I think Ohio State will still win.
I agree. Ohio State gets to basically prep for this game and blow by Oral Roberts. So, Ohio State.
I don't know much about Florida at all, Buckeyes.
An honest man. We move to the East. Michigan versus LSU. So, first thing you gotta know about LSU is they shoot very well. They don't always take the prettiest, best shots they should take, but they shoot them. Well, I think this, and I kind of talked about it with St. Bonnie's. I think Michigan also falls in that category. Michigan does not foul a lot. LSU shoots a lot of free throws, so that kind of cancels out what LSU likes to do. They like to get to the line, get downhill, or shoot threes. They're kind of like a similar Alabama, where they're trying to pick those shots. They play a lot of isolation basketball, which I think will hurt them against Michigan's defense, even without Livers. I think their best player, Trenton Watford, who is like 6'9" forward, will be probably drawing Franz Wagner, who's a very, very good defensive player, and I think he can stay in front of him pretty well. So I think it kind of neutralizes that. The biggest advantage for LSU in this game is they have an NBA point guard level player who's a freshman. That's going to be a tough ask if Mike Smith gets switched on to him. Eli Brooks should be drawing that matchup. Where I really think Michigan will have the difference is LSU does not have a ton of height in that starting lineup. Like I said, their tallest player listed is that plays a lot is 6'9" Trenton Watford, who is basically like, think about him like a Franz Wagner, but even like a little bit skinnier. Looks like Cade Cunningham-esque. Like he's not going to be able to guard Dickinson. He won't. So I don't know what they're going to do with Dickinson. They might try to do a zone or something. I don't know. But I think if played right with the right game plan, Dickinson will go for 25 and they will roll in this game because they're not going to be turning the ball over a lot. They're too old to get sped up by a team like LSU. So I think Michigan does get by even without a Livers in this game.
Michigan's magical season will not end in the round of 32. They've proved all year they can win big games. This isn't even a big game. They should roll the Tigers.
I don't like how confident
Wolverines
you said that.
to the Sweet 16.
Evan, overrule?
Grant, you made some really good points. I'll agree that Michigan moves on.
Very enthusiastic about it as well. All right, Colorado versus Florida State.
The Buffs have some players, as you mentioned earlier. And I didn't think Florida State looked good against Georgia Tech at all. So this is a tough one. But I will go with kind of a surprise. I'll take Colorado.
Evan.
No, I will go Florida State.
I will go Florida State as well. Too long, too athletic, too good. And they don't play in the Mickey Mouse Pac-12.
That was, yeah. That's a great point.
Michigan State 11 versus number 3, Tejas. Evan leads this one off.
Good. This is where Michigan State season ends. Oh. It ends ugly. Texas is too athletic. They are too scrappy. Shaka Smart and Tom Izzo are good friends, according to a tweet that I saw. So I am picking Texas. It's not a lot to say. Not a good shooting team. And there'll be turnovers after turnovers from the Spartans, which will lead to Texas being able to run. Not a good recipe for success. I like the Longhorns.
I like the Longhorns.
Well, I don't even think the Longhorns will be in this game. And I think everyone's really, really excited about Texas, and they're a trendy Final Four pick.
Oh my God, he's not gonna do this.
With all that being said,
he's not gonna use his.
I would pick Michigan State over Abilene Christian, no problem. However, I'm not going to ruin the podcast bracket for you guys, so I will say Michigan State, but I will not use an overrule, so we can put Texas. You watch Texas lose. You watch it.
How giddy would you guys be if you saw Texas lose?
Well, we'd still have to beat BYU, and UCLA.
And you'd have to watch UCLA play BYU and wish.
Well, it's possible.
Maryland, Alabama. Bama. I love Bama. Recurring theme here. Bama.
Terps keep it close for 5 minutes. Bama by 30.
I like Bama as well.
Roll Tide. Okay.
To the Midwest.
To the Midwest. Oh, the Battle of Chicago. Illinois, Loyola, Chicago. Alex.
Feel the pain. Champaign, Illinois.
John Roston.
Gosh, Jesus. I'll pick Illinois in that matchup. Just assume it would be too much to handle.
Yeah, Illinois. So maybe next year. Tennessee, Oklahoma State.
I like Oklahoma State a lot. Give me the Cowboys.
I have Liberty in this matchup, so I feel conflicted. I'm just going to go back to excitement factor, Oklahoma State.
I really hate Oklahoma State. So I go Tennessee, but I'm not overruling it because I don't care that much.
Oklahoma State. San Diego State versus West Virginia in this one. I will lead it off. Again, I was leaning Morehead State. And regardless, based on what I've looked at, I would have San Diego State in this matchup anyways. I think they've kind of been a growing West Coast power, and I think this is the year. They probably have better runs in the past that I'm just blanking on, but I think this is the year where they make some more noise and can get to an Elite Eight game or Sweet 16 at the very least.
San Diego State lost twice to Utah State, lost by double digits to BYU,
Damn it.
and lost to Colorado State. No, West Virginia.
Damn it.
Give me West Virginia as well.
So West Virginia advances. But no, I'm not going to do it. I should, though. But I'm not. But maybe. If I don't use one, I'm going to go back and use it. Or is that illegal?
No, we can go back.
No, I think that's kind of illegal. It's going to be the change.
If we haven't used them, we're going to have to go back.
All right. Rutgers, Houston.
Rutgers stinks. Houston.
Houston as well.
I mean, they stink.
Houston. I don't watch a lot of Houston basketball, but they seem very fundamentally sound.
To the west!
Gonzaga versus the Gauchos.
Zags.
the matchup everyone's been looking for. Evan leads this one off.
Gonzaga.
He's not feeling spicy. Neither am I. Gonzaga.
But I am Gonzaga.
Wow. Okay, now we go to USC, Iowa.
Well, I would have Oregon.
I am going USC. I think Iowa runs into a team that has a matchup nightmare for Luka Garza, and they win this ball game.
I hate this matchup because it's not what I had. But I don't feel good about USC. So I'll take the Hawkeyes and the best coach in the land, Fran McCaffrey.
I will take the Hawkeyes in this game because I think it's going to be a reversal. It's either Garza's going to go off against Oregon or they're going to shoot well, and then it's going to be complete opposite in the USC game where either Garza goes off or they shoot well from three.
Insert sound effect button. Overruled. USC plays Gonzaga in the Elite Eight.
Wow.
Breaking news. I just think that the Mobley kid is too good and his
You don't have
brother's
to
good as
explain
well.
yourself.
I like to. Because that's a big thing to do. It's just
Yeah, it is.
I don't think Evan's going to use
it's like
it.
spitting in faces.
If it's anything like our fantasy drafts, Evan's just going to be left with his free money.
Evan has been known to hold on to things, taking the timeouts on the bus with him. Baylor and Purdue
Bears.
beats Battlestar Galactica.
Sick 'em.
Galactica. Sick 'em. Baylor.
Sick 'em. Baylor. Texas Tech and Ohio State. I love this matchup just looking at it. This gets me jazzed.
I will go with Ohio State in this situation. I think Ohio State's too offensively efficient to where it's going to be tough for Texas Tech to defend, and I don't know if Texas Tech will be able to keep up with the points-wise, as Matt McClellan's kind of the only go-to scorer.
Yes, I lean Ohio State. I want to get just my stats in order here. Ohio State shoots like the most free throws of basically any team in this field. Like they get fouled a lot, and Texas Tech fouls a lot. And also Ohio State's a decent shooting team. So I think when you want to get fouled a lot and the other team does foul a lot, Ohio State's going to get a lot of points from the free throw line and can win a muck fest that way from the free throw line. So they win this game.
Sound the alarms. Push through. Texas Tech.
Why?
Because I trust Chris Beard. The magic is not over.
What happened to your Big Ten parade that you were on?
Well, I didn't say it would last the whole time, did I? Ohio State is vulnerable on defense. That helps Texas Tech because they have a bad offense. I think they'll be able to score a little more. I think they can clamp Ohio State. If Dwayne Washington's not shooting the ball well, which I know he's been on a tear, I think the magic runs out for the Buckeyes and Texas Tech moves on. You guys can't even argue it because it's pushed through.
It is.
Move them on.
But at least you defended yourself, so that makes you feel a little bit better, even though I feel gross about that. To the east,
Would you rather have me pushed Abilene Christian through against Texas?
I would have respected it more.
Evan's disgusting.
Evan looks disgusted right now. His bracket just got busted.
I am. That's an absolutely horrendous push through, and I hope it comes back and burns you.
Wait till you hear my argument in the Elite Eight.
You have no more push through, so I just hope Grant and I just come to our senses and overrules you just a 2-1 vote.
What a great stat. It'll be hard to go against.
Okay. Now the East. Michigan versus Florida State. Grant has used his overrule. He feels nervous about this, how this is going to go for people. You know, Florida State is going to cause Michigan problems if this matchup happens on Michigan's offense. But after the one game I watched Florida State play, again, small sample size, they turn the ball over so much. They're so careless, just chucking it around against a Georgia Tech team whose stats out not that good defensively. I can't imagine how many turnovers they would have against a Michigan team who rates high defensively. And also, Florida State's not going to be bailed out with free throws because Michigan does not foul that much at all. I got to still go Michigan here, and they get to the Elite Eight in my mind.
Dickinson against big, physical bigs.
No, their big is 7'1" and lanky and skinny. So I think it's not like
Dickinson against
matchup.
Marcus Bingham in game 2. Bad. Grant, to watch you cry because you already used your push through. In pure spite, I go with the Seminoles. Just to put it to Evan to see what he wants to do.
Did you actually think so? You had.
I think Colorado will beat Michigan. No, I'm just kidding. And in my real bracket, I have Michigan winning, but I really just wanted to put it to Evan so he had some pressure.
I feel no pressure in this. I feel 100% confident. But if Colorado's in this game, then Michigan will win easily. But Florida State, I think this is finally where Michigan's depth, roster-wise, will come back to haunt them. You're relying on Brandon Johns, valuable minutes, and the one guy that played against Ohio State that I've never seen play a minute. And yes, does Dickinson struggle a little bit against height? Maybe a little bit. Florida State's not really big physical-wise. But I think the length here is going to frustrate Michigan offensively, who has been kind of slowly declining offensive efficiency. I like Florida State in this matchup.
Evan, do you think if Livers is healthy for this game, would that change your mind enough? For this, we're still putting Florida State through, but I'm just trying to think it out loud here.
It would help a lot. I wouldn't say enough because you're still talking about somebody coming off of an injury, a non-weight bearing injury where he's going to be in a walking boot most of the time unless he's rehabbing it. It would help Michigan's chances 100%, and the depth would go away. Livers would hopefully play at least 25 minutes. He would have to score like 12 points for me to say, yeah, okay, I'll give Michigan the edge. But I still, you're right, and Florida State turns the ball over. But I think their wing defenders, where they can roll out two guards that match up with Wagner easily and Shawnee Brown easily, I still like Florida State.
Florida State has punched our ticket to the Elite Eight. Now, we have Texas and Alabama in this matchup. We know where Alex stands on Texas, so it'd be shocking if he had them going.
Yeah, roll tide. Texas stinks.
Texas does not stink, and Texas will win this game solely on Sims. They have more athletic five-man, and great coaching matchup again, Nate Oates and Shaka Smart. But I think Texas guard play would be a little bit better because they showed up a stat in the SEC championship. Alabama was like 41% from the three-point line, and they're like 2% on like made jump shots. So like if you just force them off the three-point line, I like Texas' chances.
Texas is more physical. Alabama is slender, quicker. Give me the Tide. As we all look to Evan for a potential overrule.
Don't worry, my overrule's on one team solely, and I'm holding on to it.
What a tease.
It better not be Cade Cunningham against Illinois. It is.
Oh my God.
All right, to the Midwest.
We have the Illini, the Big Ten champs, the hottest team in the entire country versus Oklahoma State, a sloppy, disorganized Oklahoma State team.
And look, Evan, it's your league.
Evan starts this one off.
Alex is basing that opinion off of one matchup. Did they look sloppy at times? Yes. Cade Cunningham got in foul trouble in the first half. He had 4 points, 3 fouls. Excuse me. Second half, he came on, shot well from three-point range, and he single-handedly brought Oklahoma State back into the game. My biggest matchup isn't technically on the Oklahoma State side, but they match up kind of like Texas, how they play downhill fast. They have the best player in the country, so I like them offensively. Illinois side. Their guards could keep them in this game. They're not as big. as Oklahoma State's guards, obviously, but Sumo can single-handedly win any game that he plays a part of. But my biggest thing is with Kofi Kofburn. I'm butchering his name.
I think you got it.
He only has 4 assists on the year, so if it's going in there, the ball's not coming out. He will not kick it back out. He's not, I would say, he's big, physical, yes, don't get me wrong there, but he's not like gifted offensively, skill-wise down below where you're not going to see an up and under. You're not going to see a fake right come back and shoot a left. He's just trying to bully ball his way through. And if you get a little pushback on him, then you can neutralize him. And plus, he gets a lot of his points on just the offensive glass or a lapse in the defense. And then you'll see a highlight dunk and be like, oh, look how good he was. I like Oklahoma State in this matchup. One of the best guard matchups in Cade Cunningham and DeSumo. Give me Oklahoma State.
I have the Illini in this one.
I think Illinois is a team of destiny. I think if this matchup happens, I think they roll Oklahoma State out of the gym. I don't think it'd be even close. So use
Overrule.
Well, at least we don't have two
All
1 seeds are out.
3 are out.
Here's my another point. I said this in our group chat, and I will stand by it. If you lose to Michigan State, I'm sorry, you're not going to win the national championship.
It's the best point
Or
I think Evan has made.
Michigan State will be in this Elite Eight, and you guys made a drastic mistake.
And I wanted to say, since that was like the last overrule used, I don't think Oklahoma State's a bad team. I do agree there was some talk out there that they got kind of jobbed in their seeding. I do think being a 4 when they were one of the better teams in the Big 12 is tough. And they drew Liberty, who I think is one of the better 13 seeds. If Oklahoma State was like a 2 or a 3, I would much sleep better at night moving them this far along. But no, I'm very invested to see, based on this bracket, how they go. And I will say, again, from a selfish standpoint, I would love to see Illinois, Oklahoma State play. So I would root for that game to happen. We'll see what is the result. Now, in a polar opposite, just boring, like West Virginia-Houston game, like that's just not even nearly as exciting to me. That's just gross. So I lead this one off. I had San Diego State, Houston here. I had Houston winning that game, so I will again have Houston winning against West Virginia. I think West Virginia just like shoots so poorly, and I think Houston's physical enough to not let West Virginia bully them around.
Cougars should score the ball better, Houston.
I would pick West Virginia in this game based off of the quality of opponents and Bobby Huggins in the tournament. I think Houston can get sloppy at times. Have you seen recently? They won the games, but they were close than the experts would say. So I like West Virginia's like experience in pressure situations.
So now we go back to the West, the Elite Eight, rarefied air. You clenching every part of your body to make the Final Four. In the West region, we have a battle of a flashy West Coast team historically and one of the most boring West Coast teams of all time. It's just basketball school, put on your hard hat and go to work. Gonzaga, USC. I got USC to this point single-handedly. Alex leads this one off.
Evan had Iowa here, I had Oregon here, and Grant had USC here. So who knows? Doesn't matter. Gonzaga's going to roll them.
Gonzaga. I'm not that crazy. And it wouldn't have mattered because the overrule's gone. To the south, a southern matchup at its finest. Baylor versus Texas Tech after Alex pushes them through against Ohio State. Evan leads this one off.
I like Baylor in this matchup solely based on if it is a Big 12 opponent. I don't think Texas Tech can score or defend as well as Baylor. I like Baylor's guards more.
Yeah, hard to beat a team 3 times in a year. They beat them twice already, but they're going to do it again because they're an absolute wagon, and this team has been – I mean, Baylor wanted this tournament to happen last year because they were playing their best basketball. They didn't forget about that. They have a guy named Jared Butler, an absolute alpha male, going to carry him through this game.
Really, really tough to beat a team 3 times. Really tough. This would be one of my sleeper Final Four picks if you guys can't tell by that. Doesn't matter. Already used my overrule, so Baylor moves on.
You would really pick Texas Tech in this situation if you're filling out your own bracket.
Oh, I did.
Wow.
Well, I can't wait to see your
Can't be
bracket just burn.
So join our bracket group, Shot Michigan Sports, so you can finish past Alex easily after that debacle.
Or Evan, because he's going to have Oklahoma State in the Final Four.
A lot of Big 12 love.
Oh, don't tell my secrets.
Oh my gosh. I just realized Oklahoma State's going to make our Final Four.
So he might be in the title game.
Oh my God. Florida State, versus Alabama. Evan leads this one off in the East.
I like Florida State's matchup. It's two lengthy, skinny players in the teams in this game. But I like Alabama's shooting will carry them past the Seminoles.
Yeah, I agree. Florida State turns the ball over a lot, which means they get sped up. Alabama wants to run. I don't think Florida State is well coached and disciplined enough to slow the game down to a muckfest, and they don't shoot well enough for that. Alabama might just have their way with Florida State in transition, and the whole length won't even matter when you're running up and down the court. They'll just be by you, and they'll making layups. So I go Alabama. Michigan should be in this game. For Michigan fans, I still unfortunately had Alabama beating Michigan. Hand up. I just am obsessed with the Tide this year. I don't know why. So it would have been Alabama either way, but I feel better about it out there playing Florida State.
In my personal bracket, I also had Michigan and Alabama, but I think the Tide are too much for either Michigan or Florida State. So, Tide.
How disgusting that they're now a wagon in football and basketball. That's just not fair.
Yeah. To the
Michigan,
gross region.
Michigan State circa 2015 when they were wagons in both.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State, Houston, I want to puke staring at the screen. Illinois was jobbed. Although I don't like Illinois fans, so I would giggle to myself if Cade Cunningham stuffed them in a locker. Evan used his overrule to get Oklahoma State to this point. We have Houston versus Oklahoma State, and I lead it off, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You know, haven't watched Houston play really. I know they beat Cincinnati by a ton, but Cincinnati's bad in their conference championship game. Houston also had a really bad loss once this year to someone. Oh well, if they play in a Mickey Mouse conference. If we're going to ride the Cade Cunningham lightning train, let's just do it to the Final Four. So I will take Oklahoma State.
Houston beat Texas Tech by 11, and they're one of my Final Four teams. Yeah, I don't know anything about Houston to that much, at least. I would hate to put Oklahoma State through. It doesn't matter what I say because Evan's going to push them through. So just go at it.
Evan?
If it was Oklahoma State versus Houston, I like Oklahoma State's post player and their ability to run downhill. Like their offensive efficiency would be high in this game.
Houston is 3 in the BPI for all those that care. The basketball performance.
Houston, I guess for people they have one of the best defense in the country, so that would be their calling card. But like what Evan's saying, he thinks Oklahoma State might just be playing too fast, and they have a guy that can win isolation basketball plays, like the best in the country at. So that would be the knock, or that would be the push forward stat for them.
To Lucas Oil Stadium in the Final Four on
Cowboys.
April 3rd.
So we have in our Final Four Gonzaga, Alabama, and Baylor and Oklahoma State. If I looked at this, just looking at it, I'd be like, yeah, that's kind of boring. I like Alabama. They're exciting. And you also have Cade Cunningham. So there's some interesting players. So just the team names, I'm like, that's really boring. But the individual players in each, I really love watching. If that makes any sense at all. So we'll start on the left side of the bracket. We have Gonzaga versus Alabama.
Alabama's coach, Nate Oates, reminds me a little bit of the Chris Beard antics and the Texas Tech run to the Final Four.
Are we a
2
Texas
years
Tech
ago.
podcast? When did this switch
Texas Tech in that year beat Gonzaga. I don't see how Gonzaga is going to have a perfect season. They're going to be cakewalking to this point. They won't have faced a real team. They're going to get punched in the mouth early, and Bama is going to take the cake against the Zags.
Bama's defense will be lackluster in this game. It'll be a very high-scoring game, but Alabama's defense will let them down. And then very efficient offense of Gonzaga. I like Gonzaga in that matchup.
This would be a game that would be incredible. Like I think I said earlier, how Clemson-Rutgers would be a disgrace to James Naismith. This would be James Naismith's dream day scenario. Both these teams love to run. And I think the differentiating factor here is although Alabama is graded out as a better defense, you're just getting into a shooting matchup with a better shooting team overall. And I think Gonzaga's lack of height works in their favor because Alabama's not some huge team. So it's basically just 5 skill guys that can play positionless basketball, and you're running and just jacking up shots and making layups. And I think Gonzaga is just better at that than Alabama is. So I would have Gonzaga going to the national championship game. On the other side, we have Big 12 Bodacious Fest. Baylor, Oklahoma State.
Cade Cunningham would be leading the Oklahoma State that asterisks should, or some are saying shouldn't be there. But I think Baylor will get the redemption in the Big 12 tournament. I think Baylor's overall defense will finally show up. And like Grant said earlier, their redemption to raise a banner will come for tuition in 2021 as they get a shot in the national championship. So I like Baylor.
This is an interesting one because it'll be the fourth time these teams will have played. Baylor won 2 of the matchups. Oklahoma State did win 1. And Baylor's only lost twice this year. So it does kind of back up Evan's point that Oklahoma State could make a run like this because they have beat one of the best teams in the country. I think the thing that people forget about Baylor, they think the defense, they think all that. This year, Baylor is one of the best shooting teams in the country as well. They are almost as good offensively sometimes as they are defensively, and their defense is clamps. They're going to switch every single ball screen, which not many teams in college basketball do. I mean, how many times do you think about Big Ten teams trying to fight through a ball screen, not getting through, and Dwayne Washington goes bang in your face? I watched it happen 5 times against Michigan. Baylor's going to switch everything. They're going to box out. They're thick. They're athletic. They're going to win this basketball game. I have Baylor winning this game. It doesn't matter for you, Alex, but any thoughts?
Baylor in the past has had some, bad letdowns in the tournaments, especially as a higher seed. But I feel like because of those letdowns, maybe this is the whole Virginia thing, 16 to the title game. I'll go Baylor. No chance Oklahoma State's even in that game. So Baylor.
Chop. So the Natty, we
Gross, boring, chalky chop.
The Natty Light, April 5th in Indianapolis. Should be at Hinkle, but that's a different discussion for a different day. Gonzaga versus Baylor. I love that I get to lead this one off. I just feel honored. My brain's in a pretzel. I had Gonzaga versus Illinois here, so also chalky McChalkerson. But and to be honest, I had Illinois beating Gonzaga. I just thought that Illinois is like a team of destiny making runs. They are fired up. They have depth. I thought that Kofi would be a matchup nightmare for Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga has a much better chance to win this basketball game. These 2 teams were supposed to play in the non-conference, but they didn't end up getting to. So not much to read into there. God, I'm torn. Is this the year that Mark Few gets it done, or does Baylor get their redemption from last year having the tournament taken away from them? When it's all said and done, I think I'm going to have to go with a team. No, that was a live change. I'm going Baylor. They're too physical. I was going to say Gonzaga. I'm going to go with a team that has the lottery talent and Jalen Suggs and skill shooting teams. But no, Baylor shoots nearly just as good in a Big 12 conference, and they play clamps defense, and they're going to be way too physical for Gonzaga. Baylor.
Gonzaga hasn't played anyone of substance since December. And don't tell me BYU is a good team. Baylor.
Well, I mean, my pick won't matter. But I think it's just, I'm not saying COVID year. I'm not saying Mickey Mouse ring. I'm not saying any of that. But I just feel this could be Mark Few's like team of destiny, where this is like a funky year. Matchups are out of ordinary. And I would probably pick Gonzaga in this. I know Baylor shoots well, like Grant has said, but I think Gonzaga's offensive efficiency would get the job done. Yes, Baylor has a chance to be more physical than them, but I think Gonzaga would win that matchup. My opinion doesn't matter.
Yes, it does, Evan.
So we have Baylor winning.
What a boring chalky chalk finish.
Imagine if you saved your overrule for the last game. Evan brought the 4 seed to the dance, though, the Final Four.
That would be
Alex,
something.
Texas Tech is not making to the Final Four. I am sorry. And
That's okay. Just like Oklahoma State's not making the Final Four.
they have a better chance than your Texas Tech Red Raiders. I'm sorry.
I'm trying to spice up my bracket. I can't just go Chalky McGee and just throw all 1 seeds and 2 seeds in the Final Four because it never happens.
I did.
It never happens.
False, it does. It does. It does. 2 1 seeds made it to the finals in 2017. Guess who was one of those 1 seeds? Gonzaga
Oh,
was.
that's fine. I put 2 1 seeds. I just don't need to put 4.
We didn't have 4.
No, I'm saying for my own bracket, Evan, I put Texas Tech because I didn't want to be Chalky McGee, and I had to pick some trendy, not trendy Final Four pick. So that,
They're not trendy. They finished like
best chance
7th
of
in their
winning.
tournament. So to be a 6 seed is kind of laughable. Just so my opinion.
Well-
Do I like Chris Beard? Yes. This is Shot of Michigan Sports. I'm not getting in on Texas Tech. Go Spartans.
Norfolk State. So before we get into any like last thoughts and one like listener question, I want to quickly touch your tiebreaker for the final score. Since we're using ESPN, what's the score of the championship game, and how we decide to average it out, whatever one sounds best? I think it's gonna be 75-70 Baylor.
80. I always, when my predictions for score, go just by 1 point. 80-79 Baylor.
Psycho.
I would go. I don't like that score because we have Baylor winning. LOL. I would go 78-74.
I like Evans.
I like mine. But I'll go Evans. Since he didn't get to pick his
Thanks.
team, he gets to pick the score.
78-74.
Even though he put a monstrosity in the Final Four.
Your pick of Texas Tech over Ohio State is more disgusting than my pick.
Florida could beat Ohio State for all we know, Evan. This is March
Let's do
madness.
Before we end, really.
Madness.
I think it's always fun to do a seed 8 or higher that you think could make a run to the Final Four. Or even like championship game. Same kind of thing. But a team 8 or higher that you think has a chance to go to the Final Four. Does anyone want to start?
Michigan State. No, joking. 100% joking. They will not make it to the Final Four. Michigan State fans, be real about it. No, we will not make it to the Final Four.
I think, okay.
Can we go 7 or higher?
No. It's going to sound sacrilegious because we made this team our champion, but I think North Carolina, I could just picture an 8-seed North Carolina in the Final Four. They're kind of hot at the right time. They had a good ACC tournament run to the semifinal. To see that. If other than that, I don't want to take 2. I'm going to take LSU as well, even though that's right in Michigan's eye hole. They impressed me in the SEC.
This is a shot at Michigan sports podcast. I'll go Michigan State. Someone has to.
Oh my god!
The winner of Michigan State UCLA, because of what could happen around them.
You're disgusting.
I will go. Oh, shoot. I don't want to say this team, but they're like one of the most trendy teams. I will go Georgia Tech in the way that they play.
Nice.
It's a weird defense. They have 2 Player of the Year candidates on their team, or not. Excuse me, not Player of the Year candidates. 2 ACC Player of the Years on their team, and like if you had to play them in a short weekend, so like a day off, it'd be kind of hard to prepare for their defense. So, and we're picking a high seed. I'll go with Georgia Tech.
I like that, Evan, because I was thinking that their defensive player matches up well with Kofi down low. Yes, Alex.
I want to change my answer and actually give a real answer here.
Okay.
Because this happened before, and they play a weird style of basketball that gives teams fits. And I know people will be outraged.
You're picking Syracuse.
But I'm looking at it here, and I can see Syracuse getting to the Final Four.
They do have an easy bottom half of the bracket.
They have a very easy bracket. They play a zone. I can see it.
Can we all be honest?
They're playing
that bottom
mid-majors.
half of the bracket.
It's terrible.
That bottom half of the bracket is disgusting.
Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
Like, it's a lot of, like, sluggish defensive, no offense teams.
Yeah.
It's
Anything
gross
what about
nonsense.
anything Georgetown? Like, they win the Big East tournament, like UConn, but a 12 seed. They don't have the hardest. Like, you'd be potentially facing a Michigan team without livers to get to Alabama. You have to beat Florida State or Colorado. Or to beat Colorado, then probably Florida State. I don't know.
I don't trust any teams to beat Bama.
Maryland?
At the bottom of the bracket.
Maryland? No.
No.
I said they'd keep it close.
They
to
lost to
5
Northwestern and Penn State back to back. No.
Anything can happen.
Yeah.
A double-digit seed has made it to the second weekend almost every year.
And then our last question that was submitted by a listener named Ben, he wanted us to just see if any of the first round gambling lines stood out to us that we would advise people to spend their hard-earned money on. Do you have...
I love the question. Love the question. I'm pulling it up right now. I didn't know that most of them would be out because it's kind of early for the Friday, Saturday games.
Oh, they were out last night, Evan.
Well, I thought they only came out for like the Thursday first 4 games. I didn't think they would actually come out for...
If our listeners are looking for a fat payout, I'm not going to tell you anybody to spend their money because that's ridiculous. Don't trust me. But in terms of value, if you're going to put up money on a game in the first round, you don't want to take a favorite and just get a little baby payout. So if it were me, I would sprinkle money on any of the 13-4 matchups. Those are all good value. And I think...
Anyone in particular? Mine would be Liberty if I had to...
I'm looking at all the 3-4 teams, and I think every single team there has a chance to win. I wouldn't be surprised if any of those threes lost.
Abilene Christian +9.
I like a sprinkle on Abilene Christian money line, and
My
I like a sprinkle on North Texas money line.
I want to give a favorite and an underdog. My favorite, I believe, Texas Tech will win by more than 5, which is what they're at right now, -5 against Utah State. Like I said, Utah State does not shoot well, which is not going to match up well with Texas Tech the way they play. So they easily win by 6 or more. And then my underdog would be the Gauchos. Like I said, I think they're going to win outright. But if I could easily take +6.5 on that. And that just shows you what everyone else is thinking. That's a pretty tight spread for a 12-5. It opened at like 8.5. It's already been moved down to 6.5. So the Gauchos are going to be us. Popular pick. Does that make me a little bit more nervous because everyone thinks that? Maybe, but no. Just Gauchos. Evan, any revelations?
If you're looking for like an underdog to like maximize your bets, maybe Ohio to cover the 8-point spread right now because of Virginia's quarantine problem.
Mm-hmm.
That is for a Saturday game. A Friday game, Florida 7-0 in their first round of 64 games. They're only 1-point favorites, so it's basically a push them there. I mean, Purdue's only favored by 7.5, which is kind of surprising to me. I think I would like Purdue in that to cover the 8-point spread. It always says bet with your mind, not your heart. That being said, I probably will bet with my Spartan Dogs on Thursday night. So hopefully you found a game that I mentioned in there that you kind of like.
Sprinkle some dollars on fat underdogs. There's no harm in it if you're going to bet.
And you'll look like a genius if you
And if it hits, you're rich. Everyone wins.
All the girls will want you. Like Mr. Moneybags knew that Abilene Christian would beat Texas.
I will feel like the smartest man in the world if that happens.
I can't wait to cut up all the clips of our freezing hot or freezing cold.
There's
takes.
going to be some freezing cold takes from us. Specifically myself.
And the best part is once we record next Monday, we can just do predictions all again.
There's reasons no one ever gets perfect brackets. So
that's right. We will. That is it for the show. Again, make sure. I'm sure you have a full pad of notes after all that, and you have a perfect bracket at this point that you're looking at if you followed us step by step of the way. So as always, make sure to follow the socials of this show. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook are all at Shot of MS. TikTok is at Shot of Michigan Sports. Email is at shotofmichigansports@gmail.com. The socials are great places for clips, the video version, and you can see what Alex just did on the video version.
no, you cannot.
And then the email is great for questions. DMs are great for questions you have to ask. We will answer them. How you can listen, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please rate and review on all of those platforms, whatever you're listening on. They greatly help other people find this show and enjoy it. Share the podcast with a friend. Make fun of us. Laugh at us. Agree with us.
Join our ESPN Tournament Challenge group. Go to ESPN, fill out a bracket, join the Shot of Michigan Sports group, and see if you can beat our group one. And we each have our own individual brackets in there. Shout out to the winner of the bracket. We'll go onto the podcast. Top 3 will probably get mentioned as well.
Yeah, and I am willing to do if the person's comfortable. If you win it and it's not one of us, we
Come
will
on
let
the
you come on the
podcast.
podcast for 5 minutes and roast us without us talking if you feel comfortable doing so. Yeah, so there is some incentive to join, and I mean it. So yeah, with that being said, Tournament Challenge, shout out Michigan Sports, join it. It's free, it's fun, it's March, it's basketball, it's bodacious, it's brackets, it's beautiful. Yeah, submit any questions otherwise. That's usually the last thing I say, other than cheers to episode 9. Cheers. On empty glass. Bad luck for Michigan
Episode
State.
9.
Alex
There's water.
Alex just cheered on empty glass.
There was water in there.
Fade Michigan State on Thursday night.